I found myself wondering this week whose bright idea it was to do a study in the book of 1 John. We are 10 weeks into this study, and we're only in chapter 2, and even barely at the midpoint of chapter 2. And some of the lessons have been so very easy, and some of them have been easy to understand, and some of the lessons have been really, really difficult for me to try to figure out what does this really mean or what's it talking about, and such is the case today. It's a passage, only 3 verses 15, 16, and 17 of 1 John, passage you've heard so often. And yet, if I just take it at face value, literally, I could leave you so discouraged this morning, and I could leave you feeling hopeless this morning, and I could leave you feeling guilty this morning. And no one wants to be here and leave feeling like that. Am I right? We all want to leave feeling uplifted, and that's what I hope happens this morning. I'm really glad you're here. I appreciate you being willing to listen to this logic of this lesson, and I hope you are encouraged before we get through with it. But as I often do, I want to take a different pathway, and you're going to think that it's a totally different pathway and totally disconnected from the lesson. But I want you to think about this word that Bert's going to put on the screen, choices. We all make choices every single day. Daily life is filled with choices. Most of those choices aren't very important. They make really no difference. You may have decided last night to go somewhere else to eat other than your home, and you made a choice, and it probably wasn't all that important where you chose. We make all kinds of choices that aren't very important. But once in a while, we make a choice, and the choice is so very, very important. It has so much to do, and with every choice, look at the next phrase. Every choice has consequences. And sometimes the consequences are good and better than we expected, and sometimes the choices lead us to a consequence that's really, really bad. And sometimes we have to wait a while, maybe even 2, 3, 4 years, and we find unintended consequences that sometimes are good and sometimes are not so good. Now, all of you follow me on this? I tell people at work all the time, you make this choice, it'll be 3 or 4 years before we know all the consequences of what we just done, whether they be good or whether they be bad. We have several times during the year a thing we call on campus Eagle for the Day. And that's where prospective students will show up, usually with their parents, and they'll come in around 8 o'clock, 8:15, and they'll gather in this one big area, and there'll be tables, and they can kind of have a little breakfast if they want. And Susan and I are almost always there. And I'll go from table to table. She'll go from table to table, and I'll look at these 18-year-olds, and some are 17 and some are 19, but basically 18-year-olds, and I'll ask them usually 2 questions. Where are you from? And they're from everywhere. And I'll say, what is your area of interest? What do you think is going to be your major? And someone will say, well, it's going to be mechanical engineering. And someone will say it's going to be psychology. And someone will say it's going to be Bible. And someone will say it's going to be something in business like accounting and so many others. And I think about it. An 18-year-old trying to think about making a choice like that has such major impact on so many years of their remaining life. It's just such a giant choice. And I find so often people come and they get a degree and they realize a little bit later they've made the wrong choice. I can tell you of 2 people in the Oklahoma City area right now. One came to Oklahoma Christian, got a degree in English. He got this degree in English, and he went out to do things with English and decided shortly thereafter, I don't like this whatsoever. He came back and got his prerequisites, took the MCAT, and now as a fairly well-known orthopedic surgeon in the Oklahoma City area. Another one came and said, I'm going to be a Bible major. I'm going to be a youth ministry person. And he got into youth ministry, and about a year and a half later or so, he said, I don't think this is for me. I think this has got consequences I don't like. Came back, got the prerequisites. Now he's a medical doctor in Norman. Choices have consequences. And life is full of choices, and some of those choices matter a lot. Now, is everyone still following? You understand? We could spend our entire time, in fact, we could go really long if we wanted to, with Bible examples. So you go back, for example, to Adam and Eve. I'm not going to spend very long, by the way. But you go back to Adam and Eve, the two who were literally created by the spoken word of God. And they had this wonderful life. Did you ever think about and try to comprehend how wonderful their life was? Do you know that Adam and Eve never had a cold? They never had a cold. I detest colds. If you've got a cold, I try to stay away from you. Have you noticed that? I don't want a cold. They never had a cold. They never had anything wrong with them. Everything was perfect. Until one day they made a choice. And they took the fruit from this one tree that they'd been told, stay away from it. The consequences, they got colds. And they got much worse than that. And they had family relationships that were terrible. One son killed another son, for example. And you know what? They had no idea that they unleashed on this world to this very day problems, deterioration that you and I are experiencing at this very moment because they made that choice way back there. And then I want you to think about 10 older brothers of a younger brother named Joseph. They made a choice. You know why they made the choice? Because they were jealous. Because they were envious. I suspect that every choice made out of jealousy or envy is going to end up being a bad choice. They were jealous and envious of this younger brother, and they decided one day, let's just kill him. And they stuff him down a well only to see the opportunity to sell him and be rid of him anyway, and they sell him into slavery. I doubt that they really thought about how it would break the heart of their father, how their father would never really get over it until many years later. And I'm sure they never thought of the consequence that one day their brother might meet them again. And he met them again as ruler over Egypt. And for a moment it turned out well, but they all died. And when they all died, all their descendants for over 400 years were enslaved because they made a choice way back there. Now, are you still following? That choices have consequences. And there are some really big choices that we make in this life. So let me give you two verses really quickly, and then we'll get to 1 John very quickly. I want you to look at one in Deuteronomy. You'll recognize this. This is Moses speaking. I'm just using the first phrase. This day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now, I think that's interesting. I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses. I've given you this opportunity to choose something. You can choose life, you can choose death, you can choose blessings, you can choose curses. Now, choose life. Choose life. It's as simple as that. It really is that simple. Joshua does the same thing. Joshua is really old when he gets to this particular point. He's taken over the role from Moses. He's done such a fantastic job of leading in that land of Canaan. But now he's stopping and looking at the people. And he's saying, you're all going to have to make a choice. You're going to have to make a choice beyond me. You're going to have to make a choice between serving God, who's giving you this land, or the gods of the people of this land. So if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day who you will serve. You get to choose. You get to choose whether the gods of your ancestors you served beyond the Euphrates, or the gods of these people like the Amorites in whose land you're now living. But I'm going to tell you something. As for me, people of my house, my family, we're going to choose God. Everybody understand that? So now we go to 1 John chapter 2 and verse 15, and you're going to think that I have literally lost my mind in every bit of this that I've said. Because read with me as we begin in verse 15. Do not love the world or anything in the world. Now just stop there. And if that's all you look to this morning, and if that's all we say, I do feel guilty. And I do feel a bit hopeless. And I do feel a bit guilty. Because I ought to tell you something. I love the world. I love a lot about this life. Do you love life? Don't you want to live tomorrow? Do you have plans for this week? Do you have plans for sometime 2 weeks from now? I love the things of this life. Do you know at our house, we can punch a button and it'll get warmer. And we can punch a button and it'll get cooler. Do you know at our house, we can walk in and it can be a little bit dark, and we can go over and we can just move this little toggle switch and lights come. And you know my car right now, I can get in my vehicle and I can put it in reverse, and on the screen there is this great big screen and it shows everything behind me. And if I'm not looking at the screen and I get too close to something, it'll beep at me. I like that stuff. I mean, I really like it. There is so much about this world that I really, really like and love and want to continue. And I can't wait to get the next vehicle that's got the bigger screen. Isn't that interesting? Do not love the world or anything in this world. That scares me a little bit. For if anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Oh. How do you deal with that? Now, I want you to remember something. Seldom does anything have meaning without context. Remember that statement I've said over and over again? Seldom does anything have real meaning unless you put it in context. There's got to be something more here. Because we were designed to live. We were designed to enjoy life. So you keep reading. And he says, for everything in the world, now he begins to define. I learn now. He's not talking about electricity. And he's not talking about a backup camera. And he's not talking about the phone that you have that keeps you in communication when used to you couldn't be in communication like this. He's not talking about anything like that. He's saying the lust that you have in this flesh and the lust that comes from what you see from your eyes and the things in this life that produce pride where you want to kind of show to other people what you've got. They come not from the Father, they come from this world. And the world and its desires pass away, but whoever does the will of God will live forever. So do you see these three phrases? Do you really see these three phrases? Look at the three phrases, and I've reworded them a little bit. Look at the next words that Burke put up here. Here's what John is talking about. This old man who writes, he says, there is the possibility that you and I would fall into making choices that lead to pleasing our sinful self. There are just cravings that we have in this flesh. There are things that we have in this body of ours, and we're drawn to them, and we want them. And he says that's what the world really is about, is choosing to satisfy those things. And when you choose to satisfy those things, you're in love with the world. You're not in love with the Father. Does that make sense to you? And we see it all the time. We see it all the time. And look at the next one. Wanting simple things that we see. I love the ability to see. And I am hoping that I got my mother's genetics in this one area, that I will be able to retain my eyesight throughout all of my life. Because if I have my dad's genetics, I won't have that. I only have a few years left if I retain his genetics to be able to see. But there would be some things about not being able to see that wouldn't be all that bad. Because what we see, we tend to want. And what we see, we tend to get attracted to. And there are some things that I might get attracted to that I shouldn't be attracted to. Or at least I shouldn't let that attraction go any farther. I should make a choice and say, no, you're not going to keep looking at that. And no, you're not going to desire that which you're seeing. Is that making sense to you? Are you understanding that? That's what the world's all about. It's letting what the body wants just take. It's letting what the eyes see just have. And then you have this other one. It's just being a little too proud of what you have. I find it so interesting to go from the front of the Scripture to the back of the Scripture and see how much God detests this. You know why he detests it so much? I think he may detest that more than he does his first two. Because we fail to understand that whatever we have has been a gift from him. And yet, have you ever seen someone all of a sudden inherit a bunch of money and they act like different people and they're so proud? Or someone gets a title, or someone gets this position, or and suddenly they become so proud, and they want you to see it. They want you to see what I've accomplished. They want you to see. Why do they need to see anything? Why do they need to know anything? Because when I want them to see it, somehow we think it makes us feel better and makes us feel kind of superior, and we like to feel kind of superior, and we like to feel kind of better. And God says all that is just ridiculous. It's the way the world thinks. It's the way Satan wants you to think. It'll get you in such trouble. It'll get you in. I'm going to remind you that if you do everything that this body wants to do, you're going to get in really bad trouble. And if you do everything your eyes see, if you go after everything you see that you want, you're going to get in really bad trouble. And if you strut around like you're something special, you're going to get in really bad trouble. It's as simple as that. And all John is saying is, I don't want you to love the world. Because if you love the world, you're not loving the Father. And you know what loving the world means? Well, this is the part that bailed me out this week. Because I wanted to skip this whole mess. I wanted to say, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not talking about this. I'm frustrated with it. This is the part that bailed me out. when he says, here's what loving the world looks like. You give into these three basic things that Satan is always talking about in your life. He's always showing your life. You give in, that's loving the world. It's not about enjoying life. It's not about having a good time. It's not about conveniences. It's not about all those things that we so treasure in this world that we want to cling to. It's about the world as it really is. And the world as it really is messed up. And John says, you shouldn't be a part of it. If you're going to live like Jesus lived, you shouldn't be a part of all this. And so did you catch that last part, what he said? Don't love the world, don't get involved in these three things so that you might live, so that you might live, you might have life. And so I close by telling you this. We have to choose. We have to choose. And you have to choose about this thing of what the flesh wants. You have to choose when your eyes tell you, I'm going to follow this when I shouldn't be. I wish I could tell you how many people are in such miserable conditions of life right now because they're in such debt they cannot function at all. And their marriages are torn up because they're in such debt. You know what got them there? Look in the driveway, and they got two brand new, really, really fancy cars. And they got all this other stuff. And it's far more than they could afford. And they just let their eyes get a hold of them and got them into this mess. And Satan's trying to pull them farther and farther so that he destroys their marriage by it and destroys a bunch of other things by it. We just choose to stay away from that stuff. We choose a different lifestyle. How often is the choice made? You got to make the choice over and over and over again, day after day after day. And you get tired of that, don't you? I get tired of that. I get tired of doing that. But let me tell you something. You're learning more and more right now how to eat right. Do you not make that choice every day? What you're going to eat? You're going to eat something healthy, you're going to eat something really bad for you. I do a little of both. I try to do more healthy than I do the other. So I drink that crazy drink every morning. Because I drink this drink every morning, I think I can do whatever I want to the rest of the day. But it's a choice. I told my little brother, I said, Steve, start drinking the drink. He said, it tastes bad. I mean, that's what he literally told me. It tastes bad. My answer is, so what? So what? It's a choice. That's the way life works. Every single day you have to choose. And if you choose right, you live forever. Now, one last thought and I'll quit. I promise I quit. You're not going to make the right choice every time. You're just not going to do it. You're not going to make the right choice every time. You're going to make bad choices. They're going to have bad consequences. But John wrote just a page earlier. In this book, he wrote just a page earlier, understanding that you and I would make some bad choices, understanding that sometimes we would be acting like and living like we love the world. And he said, but if you'll just snap out of that and you'll keep looking back to Jesus and you will admit that you've done wrong, then the blood of Jesus will keep on cleansing you. And you still get to live forever. But you got to fight. You got to do something on your own, and you got to work with these choices. But if you happen to mess up, don't spend the rest of the week beating yourself to death. Go to God and say, look, I messed it up. Everybody understand? That's why Jesus came. Jesus came to enable us to fight the lust of this flesh, the lust of the eye, and the prides that we have in this life, he came to fight, to help us fight. And he came to ensure that we have the victory over all those things. So that if I make a bad choice this afternoon, I keep coming back and saying, I didn't want to do that. And he keeps cleansing me. It's the story of Jesus. Susan and I went to the movie at Carnegie Friday night. I think it was Friday night, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Friday night. And it's talking about Jesus. And it's depicting him right before he's going to get to the cross. And it shows this heaviness that's on him. This giant heaviness that's on him about going all the way to the point of death. But he knows that's why he's come. He's come so that you and I can put up the fight, and we can't ever win it by ourselves, but he'll help us win it. And it's the beauty of Jesus. So we take these emblems here in a moment. They're about the beauty of Jesus. We remember the death, but they're about the beauty of Jesus coming and making such a difference in our life that we can survive in this world.